this again. It's not been downloading on my system. This is so weird. It's yes, something is downloading. Pause. That fix it? There we go. Okay. Jeez. Oh my goodness. Steam. It was Steam, guys. I'm sorry. I don't know why I probably ate my internet the hardest. That's the problem. Okay. 1,000 worlds is my problem. 1,000 planets. Just for a person to make 1,000 planets, it's gonna take them like out, depending on how big these planets are. I don't know how much square footage we're talking about here, but since they're like you land anywhere on the planet, that to me says that these planets are at least a few hundred square kilometers.
I mean, the thing is like there's a ton of tools and tricks that you can do to streamline making a planet. They don't have to be super detail oriented in the planet itself. Um, where where they would have to do something other than procedural generation. Um,
I could see them like plotting out a city, right, and then running a machine learning or some sort of algorithm or something to build the world and how it would evolve over time. Like I could see that, like, and then someone goes in and adjusts it later, but
mhm.
we're still
I mean,
talking about 1,000 of these, and that's still a lot of work.
yeah.
I feel like
I
that
mean,
kind of scale is not particularly necessary, but it's their dev budget. This game's been in development for probably way too long, so hopefully it's good. Let's talk about something that isn't the world for a minute. Um, of all the things you saw, what was your biggest the thing you liked the most about the Starfield gameplay?
about the start, I would say I was very impressed with graphics as a passing thought, definitely, because you kind of expect a certain level of graphics looking at like Skyrim and Fallout 4 and Fallout 3. You're like, oh, okay,
I would hope it
you know,
looks better than Fallout
decent,
4.
but okay. Um, graphically, I was surprised. It looks fairly clean. I'll be honest. Like it actually looks really clean for what I was expecting. I wouldn't put it on par with like an Unreal 5 game, um,
No,
or
the
something like
the
that. But
facial animations and the character
um,
model still looked a little rough, especially when they were
the
talking.
the amount of customization, I would have to hold my judgment on that because they did talk about how we have the most customization that you can do for your character,
Well,
and,
that
and
we've
they
ever had in one of our
the,
character
yeah,
customizers, which
and
was,
and the thing is
but they got rid of
like
blue people. You used to be able to be blue in Oblivion, like just be a weird, just do whatever. Like it was a nightmare fuel creation engine, basically. Uh, honestly, the I think the part where to me where the graphics kind of falter is the Deadite stairs. Like the character models look, they don't look alive,
yeah,
and that's they're like puppets being animated,
yeah.
and that
It's one of
was
those things where I'd have to see more of them doing stuff with it than the like what was it 5 seconds total we saw.
We saw
in
some
that.
people talking, and
So I mean, it it,
like
it looks
even the
clean.
character in something like Cyberpunk 2077, like even your V, like when you're making them, they don't have the deadite stare and just stand there still. They like move around and they look
Mhm.
relatively lifelike,
Yeah.
even if it's not like the most amount of detail. That's probably where I think the creation engine is still falling short, is rendering people, which
Yeah.
I would argue is was never been the strong point of the creation engine.
The other thing that intrigued me, I was impressed with the customization for the ship, and the settlement builder or the outpost builder, I guess I should say. Um,
I want to
Looked
see how that works.
really well. Again, yeah, for all of it, like you got to realize before you get super excited about Starfield, it's one of those things you got to understand. You solve probably 5 seconds, 5 to 10 seconds of each, as
Besides
they were going
shooting
through the stuff
things,
that they are like, okay, it has this, and that's fair. I'm not saying this to knock Bethesda or Xbox for that matter on their presentation. It's I'm intrigued. I'm definitely happy with what I have seen so far of it. But before I like hold a judgment on it, be like, oh, this is really good or this is bad or anything anywhere in between, I would have to see more of it being done. Um, and we're probably going to see more of that definitely as we get closer to them releasing it. Um, because I mean, it still doesn't have a single release date. It's early 2023. That's what we got, and that's fine.
I'm
I'm
feeling
not.
like it's going to be somewhere in the February March area, but I don't
It's
know.
possible.
Honestly, I don't want to. I don't want to be mean to it, but the character models were the best. But the other thing that I really didn't like was the gunplay. It looked really weightless.
It Yeah.
I think weightless is the best way to describe it. When every game, you have a gun and it has a certain amount of kick and like I don't know if like vibration, like I've been playing Resident Evil Village again, just to get some achievements in that, keep myself up because we're getting new uh updates for that soon apparently. And you're playing on a controller, and when you start loading the shotgun, for instance, the controller like rumbles every time Ethan's like pumping the shell in, and it feels weighty, and it feels like you can feel the shells going in the shotgun. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
it's loaded, and just by feel, not even having to look at the indicator. But this just felt like shooting the guns. Like it,
It,
it the sound wasn't as good. I'm hoping this is stuff that they can fix. I don't know when they put this build from, but
well, it's also again, it wasn't presented in a way that you could really get the full experience of it.
oh no.
Which again, that's not what the trailer's goal was. The goal was to reveal gameplay. And whenever you have, what is it, like um a huge game that you're going to different aspects of it. And of course, Bethesda's going to focus on the bigness of the world and all that stuff because again, that's their strong point. You're going to end up with very little time on the smaller stuff, which still is
Yeah.
very important to the gameplay.
I
Um
don't think gunplay is a small thing in a game that there's going to be a lot of shooting.
um
I think
what I
it's
mean by that is small in the sense of like it'd be like if if Porsche talked about the complexities of their cup holder.
yes, like
It's like Like, yeah, you
I
still want a
kind of
cup holder in your
understand
car, but you're buying a Porsche, you're concerned about other things.
for sure, and
And so
that's fair. But
I just there's not
Starfield
enough
didn't blow me
information
away.
there. There's not enough information in there for me to hold judgment against them on that.
Uh, I I don't want to be mean because I know there's a bunch of people. It's like this is, but I'm so looking forward to this game. And like
Mhm.
more power to you, but I think it's fair to level some criticism at it for things that didn't look as good as it could. Like
Mhm.
the weapons. I honestly hope that like we saw Redfall, okay,
Mhm.
and they had that shotgun. I don't know if it shot stakes or whatever, but there was like it moved. It had big muzzle flash. It had big sound. Like it looked, and from what we could see, looked like it was gonna feel good to try and shoot it, even if it was a little unwieldy.
Mhm.
And it had recoil and everything. To see then the big game of the showcase have worse like gun sounds than that, I think is a
Mhm.
little concerning. And this is I was always I know that even Fallout and that didn't have the best sounding guns, even for the time. But the gunplay was passable. I don't know if this is a case of the gunplay wasn't good because your characters doesn't have the stats, but
Mhm.
or they were just trying to show it without maximum recoil. But there was like a double barrel shotgun at one point that was very, very boxy,
Mhm.
and it didn't feel like it had any weight to it at all in the way it was animated in that. And I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's again like the thing that if I were to level some criticism at Xbox, it would be it during E3 when even when Xbox was with Bethesda. Bethesda had, I felt, a lot more time to do their presentation. Now, this does prevent Todd Howard from saying regrettable statements like "it just
It
worked,"
just works. It just works. It works
but at the same
perfectly.
time, you got more information from Todd Howard doing a full presentation because Todd Howard does a really good job of presenting
Well,
um
I don't
his
want to like
company's
level
work.
crazy criticism at it just yet because you might still get that in the
Yeah,
Tuesday event. So
yeah.
I don't
Um,
think that they didn't show enough of it. I think this is a good like first taste. I have a very
mhm,
good understanding of what this game is going to be,
yeah.
and I'm just hopeful that these polishing is fixing up some
Well,
of this gameplay
the
stuff.
the big hope here, and this is the taking on faith part, is that while we can go and they can say honestly, okay, this is in game engine gameplay. Now, did they make just this for just this video?
Well,
Or
that was the first one, right? Like the first trailer, the character model was much more alive, much more anime, but it was in game engine. It wasn't
well,
playing
it's the
game.
thing is like the goal here is to avoid the mistakes of the past. Now, Cyberpunk 2077, big mistake. Not as huge as I think that everyone says it is, but still a big mistake. And probably the biggest part of that is when they did gameplay reveals,
They overpromised, underdelivered in some
they they
regards.
they did those gameplay reveals just for that. Like they built that scene in game instead of this is just happens to be part of the scenes that we were that are in the whole game. They designed like what we got presented was not the final product that we were given. and that is one of the things that is
It was pretty
negative about.
close,
It is
but
pretty close, but like
what
I
they
said,
did is
it's
they
one of those
if
things.
it almost feels like they took the starting, they like made the demo into the starting area, which I think is fine, but they should have said this is the start of the game. But you never get
And
like, even if you piss off other gangs, you don't get like shootouts happening. And I feel like Starfield right now has. I only feel like I'm being super hard on it because it was like the tent pole title of the showcase,
mhm.
and I know a lot of people are still hyped about it. And I don't want to sound like the big hater who's like, I hate this game, because I don't. I want to try it. I want to play it, but I just want it to
Well,
be better. I want Bethesda to be better.
here's the thing. I don't think we were presented enough to make a judgment on the gunplay. We're just not. It was revealing gameplay, but it was not. You didn't really get the full experience of gameplay.
I
Gameplay was
honestly
happening in the
hope that that
background.
gunplay wasn't final. That's all.
Um,
Because you could fix it.
I don't
Like you
think the gunplay was that bad, personally.
compared to other Bethesda games, it's compared to other Bethesda studio games. No, compared to like the now I don't want to say industry standard, but industry
Compared to elsewhere in the industry, definitely it wasn't
even
as
elsewhere
bad,
in
as good.
Bethesda, it's
Um, yeah, I would also agree with you on there. It's definitely, it's on par with Bethesda, it, individually, Bethesda,
I
not
just
none
don't
of its
like.
subsidiaries. It's one of those things where there, the areas that you're seeing seem alive. Whereas when they're doing like a city area, um, really all I'm saying is that I just don't, like whenever you see gameplay, you always got to keep in mind, yeah, but there has also been dev companies that have abused that gameplay. They have
If
taken
this is
that.
what the if this is what the actual game's like,
Yeah,
it's fine. I
yeah,
just don't expect me to be like it glowingly positive about everything when I'm
yeah,
not particularly just I'm just concerned because this is the
yeah,
big game, right? And this is the big deal. This is the we got to do this because this is the game everyone wants. They've been looking forward to it forever. Here's your shiny new engine, and
mhm.
graphically, it's almost up to the task. People are just the thing that seem to be lacking here. I don't know if it's just something if that's something that they're working on fixing.
Well, I mean, it's another thing that we've talked about before is like the big the big draw with Bethesda and why they should never avoid mod support is because yeah, I'm buying if when I buy Starfield, I may play the main quest and then I'll wait 6, 12 months and have a whole different game.
Yeah, if this isn't moddable,
Well,
it's gonna it might be
in
like the
2021, Todd Howard said it will have full mod support. Now, things change, bunch of stuff happens. Usually, I believe if they stick with branding for how they've normally done mod support, it's usually I want to say it was like 3 to 6 months after.
is it gonna still come with the GAC? Are they gonna rename the GAC?
Who knows?
And
It
for people
is.
who don't know, if you used uh if you wanted to make maps or something in Fallout 3, I think it was just 3 in New Vegas, you had to use the GEC, the Garden of Eden creation kit. And I don't know if Skyrim had it included in the downloads, but I know that Fallout 3 did for sure. Or you could download the Garden of Eden creation kit on its own. Like it was just there. That's why mod support was so good for these games, because they kind of supported it and gave you some tools to work with. Yes, I think the community could fix this, but
it like I said, the big thing is, and not to, kind of be too harsh on Todd Howard and Bethesda as the wider group, we expect them to release a buggy game. As long as they're not hugely game-breaking bugs, we're okay. We know Bethesda will come up with a patch for it to fix it, and if they don't have time for it, there's a community of people who will probably release it a little bit quicker. It's one of those things, like I'm looking forward to it because I like space. There's not a lot of space games that I enjoy lately. Now they're a lot of times they've been more on the horror side of things, Dead Space, stuff like that. Um, it'd be interesting to see it. I am still excited for it. I'm happy that there's actual gameplay that they can show, because remember, up till now we were looking
Yeah,
over the
we've
shoulder
seen
of a
nothing
developer
basically. We saw the
in
robot.
the integrated development environment or the creation engine developing the game. And while that's all well and good, I see it for what it is. It's a little bit better than just stock footage.
A little bit.
It's dev number 126 making game.
Yeah.
and,
I
and so we actually have gameplay, so that's something to be excited about. The gameplay looks, uh outside of the gunplay, the world looks good. um
I want to
Honestly, it
see more about
mm,
like the exploring aspect, because that's
definitely.
was part of the big thing was we said is exploring, and that's probably going to
Hmm.
be a big draw to the game. It's part of the plot. Um, what I want to know is when it's coming, for one, and
Yeah,
two, uh, what can I expect to find on planets? Like, there's other factions to talk to? They showed off a few, but
they showed off a couple factions. Whether there's more out there or that, we don't know.
I'd hope
um
so. I hope
Really,
there's
the
like a
big
weird alien
question,
race, because there were
I mean,
so many. Everything was human. We didn't see anything that was like alien.
you saw life, alien life, like creatures and stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, like, we
But
didn't see any sentience, alien sentience.
yeah, but nothing like Mass Effect, where it'll be like the United Nations of alien peoples.
Yeah, I would. I don't know if it's supposed to be NASA punk.
Which does lend towards the idea that there wouldn't be, and if there are, there's probably maybe one or two, because again, a lot of it is NASA punk is just a new terminology for the old phrase hard science fiction. Um,
Maybe,
uh,
but there still could be alien life.
yeah,
I don't know.
definitely.
Well, you could have weird. You could make your character to an alien because you pick any color skin color you wanted. Abomination.
Um, but really, the
I'm the
question,
alien.
honestly, on everybody's mind really is, when can they download the mod to turn their ship into a Thomas the Tank Engine, or when can you make the pirates Thomas the Tank Engine?
When does someone
Because,
put Finn Diesel from Arc 2 into Starfield? I want to see the weird things people make with the character generator. How
oh
long
yeah,
until we have 2B? How long? Minutes? Hours after
well,
the game's launched?
I
Like,
want to see what
that's
mods come out with it, because again, if this is what the new creation engine can do, that's impressive. Um,
graphically, it seems to have a lot of the new stuff. I don't honestly, it's hard to tell. Looking at it, I didn't notice any ray tracing, but I know ray tracing is like the what is it? How do I say this and sound?
membership card.
It's not even a membership card. It's more like it's the big feature that games are trying to push now. Is
Yeah.
is ray tracing in that because the hardware isn't the consoles, which is and we didn't see any here, which is totally possible. But I honestly subsurface scattering on that skin, my dude. I
it,
got to
it 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 looks good, honestly.
it looks decent. It looks decent. It is. It doesn't do the. I don't know if it's because it's going for something more realistic, whereas compared to something like Final Fantasy 16 that we saw at the State of Play, where it clearly was styled in a certain way. You know what I mean? Like it had that. Like it
Yeah,
still looked realistic, but the characters were styled
yeah.
in a way that made them
Well, you got to avoid that was it Uncanny Valley.
the uncanny valley. So either you make it no super realistic, and I feel like the Starfield characters, like the abomination type characters, you can make with the character creator, which I know you can do. It's gonna be one of those you make the character model perfect, and then you turn the head, and it's like, oh my god, what did I do?
Yeah. Well,
That's like what it
it's
always is.
the exciting part about the Bethesda games is what does the mod community come out with? I've always been intrigued by that. I've always been intrigued with listening to modders talk about how they develop the mods. 'Cause that's fun to me to hear, someone who was passionate enough about this intellectual property to then spend the hours and hours and hours it would take to add something to that. Um, I'm from what I've seen of the capabilities of the Creation Engine 2, which albeit is limited, it kind of gives me a kind of hope and excitement to see what the modding community pulls up with that. Because
The
like I said,
character,
compared to Fallout 3, Fallout 4, um,
oh, it's
and
so much
Skyrim,
better than Fallout.
it's
I think Fallout
much
4 is
much better.
the best one to compare it to, but compared to Fallout 4, it is definitely much better. It's got the real material looking textures, which means that maybe, just maybe, this game is going to be massive on your SSD or hard drive. You probably want to play it on an SSD if you're playing this on PC.
Yeah,
I
but it's one of those things where like I don't expect amazing gunplay with Bethesda. I don't honestly. I don't expect like super high end, um, story lines and all that stuff because that's just. Uh, I mean, I'm open to the possibility that they bring somebody in or they've upped their game and it turns out to have a really good storyline, but I don't expect it.
I'm just watching the trailer for a second, and I gotta be honest, the draw distance is pretty impressive.
Yes.
I'm not seeing a lot of pop in, but this world doesn't seem to have a lot of vegetation, so it probably use, and they're also cutting it a certain way. So
There is some cuts. There's it's
I don't blame them for cutting it because you don't want to bore people to death. But the
yeah.
unless it's like really, there has to be some sort of like draw distance thing. There's some weird. I'm seeing a lot of usual YouTube artifacts, but for the most part, the draw distance is very impressive.
Yeah. Um, it'd be interesting to see how much you can actually explore of this, or if there's like the invisible wall situation. Um,
Did they say this was Series X or is this PC running on the PC?
I don't recall them saying what was running. Um, but again, graphically, it looks clean. It looks very clean.
The inside looks good. The outs, like the inside, the facility looks good. It's it's just the character model and the gunplay that I'm kind of worried about. But hopefully they've got time to patch it up and fix it because it. I think it should be better. What did you think of the lockpicking mini game thing they showed off?
I liked it. There's always the like you don't want to make lock picking too difficult or too tedious, at least,
Yeah,
because you very quickly make it so if someone goes, well, never mind, I don't even want to see what's in there.
this is clearly
But at the
being
same
played on a
time,
controller, but because that was the problem with lockpicking in all the Fallout games and probably also Skyrim. It was designed for a controller first. Did you? These some of these cuts are annoying. I want to see how the jetpack traversal works because like they show like double jumps and air dashes and that, but
yeah,
they cut it
that
before
would
he
be
lands.
interesting.
So like, did you not make it the whole way? Is there other force traversal abilities?
Yeah.
Does gravity differ from planet to planet?
I
What
mean that that
else?
that's that's one of the things definitely why I'd like to see more from them, and hopefully we will get them to see the typical whole Bethesda presentation, because Todd Howard does a really good job of that, going into the all the individual aspects, and really, as long as he avoids those statements that we all look at and go, okay, yeah, this is going to be a bad thing for you to say because we're going to call you on it later, like it just works, then he's solid. He is an amazing company hype man for his game and for his team. So like he does an amazing job at that, and I'd like to see more from him on it, because these worlds look really good, really alive. Like there's the clean places, there's the dirty places to it. Um,
I want to know if we see places that are like slums and like shanty towns and stuff. Because there's got to be a planet where like they crashed or whatever, and people
it
made towns out of the old spaceships things like
I
or
mean, you look at some of the places; they do look pretty dirty. There's grit and grime in the world and stuff like that. Let me see. Like you of course have like New Atlantis, which is supposed to be like the capital, clean, super nice place. Um, and then there's other places too that have a little bit more dirt to it. I can't remember where I saw him. And he's got it. The Pit Boy has become smaller. I mean, his watch.
basically a Pit Boy.
Yeah, it's a Pit Boy. Uh, Dog meat looks like he put on some weight.
Uh,
Definitely.
I
The thing is they definitely want to avoid having everything look super clean, because then it's one of those things where it's like if everything's super clean and shiny, it looks not realistic,
yeah, you gotta like
because
walk that
things
line.
aren't things aren't super
Can I
clean.
just can I just autopilot my spaceship to go to the planet? Oh, there's space combat. Okay.
Oh yeah, there is space combat. It looks again
Like that's the
interesting.
thing. They showed off so much stuff here. You're right. It was kind of short.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like the total of the things that they're presenting, like it was like what was it,
Well,
15
it's
minute
supposed.
long video
Yeah, it's 15 minutes. It was supposed to
sequence.
be a really big game.
But they
Like if
showed this huge amount of stuff, and I recall what Todd taking like 30 minutes. Like twice as much.
for
Going
76,
into
yeah.
like look at what we went through to make the panels. and small stuff like that. And yeah, admittedly, that was also the time he said it just works. But it, it's it's
Actually,
definitely one of those things where I definitely like to see more from him. Um, okay, they do a good job of not making everything super clean. Now that I'm looking at it, yeah, there's debris on the ground. There's muddy areas. Okay.
like I understand that a game like Starfield, to make it look as good as something like, say, Resident Evil Village.
Hmm.
Resident Evil Village is not a fair comparison since it's a single player game that is very limited in scope and
Hmm.
can have huge set pieces because the game is rather contained and short. So, yes, when you that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm hoping the scale that they're going for is worth the trade offs that it costs.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, right? It's a balancing act. That's game development is
Hmm.
if you want the huge open world, it's gonna be basically copy pasted unless you've got the manpower to make everything. Like look at a perfect example is Flight Simulator, where they use AI and satellite photography and satellite imagery to recreate the entire world in
Hmm.
a somewhat believable state. And then they go in and make certain buildings and things by hand. They send in a creator. Oh, excuse me.
But it
Then go ahead.
I mean, I'm looking over the like character creator. I mean,
It's
I'm
the
still
Deadite
not
stare,
seeing
man.
anything. I'm still not seeing anything that's like really like, oh wow, look at that customization. I would say if I was to give them some criticism on their graphics, everybody's face is super clean. Like nobody has smuts on them.
Schmutz.
Nobody.
Schmutz. Uh, I, I just think it's the Deadite stare. It's like the Deadite stares I could live without, but hopefully you can fix that. Make them look a little more lifelike. Make them look like they're actually alive. Unlike myself, who think it's starting to die. It is late. But uh we can wrap this up. Starfield, I am on the fence of I'm gonna play it. This is Game
Yeah.
Pass. Free real estate, basically. Uh
Oh, I'm gonna buy
the question
it.
is it going to be um what is the word? Is it gonna live up to all the hype? I don't know if it
Yeah. That's the big question, definitely.
and that's why when they're like, we're making 1,000 planets, I'm like, really? 1,000?
Well, I mean, again, it's like we're seeing a lot of stuff. We're getting like the barest hint of what the storyline is about. I mean, a lot more than we have had so far.
Well, yeah,
Um,
they actually told us stuff, and they told us about New Atlantis, and they showed New Atlantis, and they showed us adversaries as pirates. Which are basically raiders in space. I'm in space, like space pirates. I
but
don't want to be like, this is the Bethesda talking about show, but damn, man, damn. I'm just worried that I'm. It might not even be for me because it might be just so. For all I know, looking at it right now, the 1,000 plus planets or whatever, it feels like some sort of back of the box brag,
yeah,
and in reality, it might not be as good.
yeah, it's definitely like, can you visit all of them? can when you visit them, do they look like they just planet number 35?
Yeah, do they just change?
Yeah. So
Oh, we didn't talk
there's
about
definitely
Flight Simulator.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that was funny.
Was
Flight
it
Simulator.
40th anniversary?
Yeah, it's older than Windows. The original version of I don't even think it's a basic. Microsoft Flight Simulator.
1982 Flight Simulator 1.0.
Yeah, and it was on the IBM PC. I don't know if it's before Windows. I think it is before
It,
Windows.
it it was before Windows, because was it the Windows
Yeah,
3.0?
is is it
Oh
even
no,
on
2.0
DOS?
technically. Uh,
I don't
that
even think this is a Windows game.
No, it was DOS. It was definitely
Yeah.
DOS.
Oh man, like
So
yeah, it's DOS. I mean, looking at this for the 80s, this is damn impressive. I'm sure it ran at like 5 or 10 FPS. But by God. The thing is that Flight Sim being like one of the oldest Xbox franchises, or well, they've coined it as an Xbox franchise, even though it's older than even Microsoft's Windows. Yeah, because geez, it's crazy to think about that. Like it's 40 years old. Yeah, but
I mean, technically, while it's older than Windows, the operating system, it is not older than Windows, Microsoft, the company. And
well, with Microsoft
Microsoft had an operating system before
Basic
MS DOS.
is Basic was before it, right?
BASIC was a programming language.
And Lotus 1, 2, 3. It's still pretty
So
early in the PC boom because they
Microsoft
started
bought
out
86
making
DOS from I can't remember, Patterson something, and they rebranded it MS DOS. Maybe they tweaked it a little bit. I'm not sure. It was a bit of time ago.
yeah.
And
Well,
that was
that like
1981. So
yeah,
they just before,
yeah.
and then
But this is
85 they
before
come out
like
with Windows
full
1.0.
GUI what we know today as Windows.
Oh yeah,
This
yeah.
is way before
85 was
Windows.
Windows 1.0.
Yeah, so that's why I mean. It's like this is Microsoft's oldest franchise. Yeah, yeah, it is. It's it predates Windows
Yo.
by a whole year. But the update was what helicopters and
uh,
pontoon planes. No, they had
there was
pontoon planes before.
helicopters. Um,
I don't know what else there was. I know there were helicopters for sure. And then they cheekily announced that you can also get the Pelican from Halo, which is cool. It looks cool. They played the theme, and I was like, that was the only Halo thing we saw this entire conference. But I'm kind of okay with that. I'm hoping
yeah.
that they do. They probably, if they have something to show for Halo Infinite, they'll probably show it at the extended showcase.
Hmm. That's what it is. The characters are staring off at the like upper left hand of the screen.
Yeah, it's
That's
it's
what
they
makes them feel like there's no eye contact. Like I know there wouldn't be, but still, like have them stare at the center of the screen. Sorry, talking about Starfield. Like I'm
and
just like looking at.
Starfield's just gonna sneak into everything.
Oh my god. Yeah. that'd be the only the like if they stared forward a little bit more, that would help.
Or they had like an idle animation of some description.
It's like they're trying to avoid eye contact.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I played all sorts of games at something small like idle animations, or like, you know, maybe you're standing there and your character like pulls out the gun and like checks it, or pulls off checks the clip, or does something, you know. Like if you're playing a first person shooter game, and you don't do anything and you're carrying the rifle around, it's totally possible that your character's gonna like check the gun or something, just like as
Yeah.
something different. Because the thing is, we as people do not just stand there and do nothing most of the time. Like you got something
True.
in your hand, like a pen or something, you're gonna click it or
Yeah.
rotate it, or like fidget with it a bit, because you're, and then depending on the situation you're in, that's gonna alter how you react. Having
Hmm.
literally no animations for things, and just T-posing, or just standing there, and like they had decent animations when the character was taking off, like plugging at all the keyboards, they're flipping the switches and things, they're sitting in the chair. Good, but something else.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I'm just looking over the trailer. The best ones is when they look center screen. Like they don't look dead eyed then, but
They
then they
still look
just
kind
like
of dead eyed,
look
but
up off. Mm, Not too bad, honestly.
comparison, yeah. No, like it's just they don't feel alive and natural, and like even Plague Tale, those character models are really good, really lifelike, and they like emoted.
Hmm.
And maybe I'm
But
being
yeah, I think.
crazy here, but maybe because I've seen what something like Star Citizen can do with its facial tracking,
Hmm.
just using a
Well,
webcam.
see, that's the thing with Star Citizen. Like
This is not done, and it's
when
never
it when
coming
it
out.
when
It's going
it's
to be
when
in
it's
early access for eternity.
the game that will never be completed, is also kind of gold standard ish in, like, if you're gonna do a space game, that like that aspects of that, pick some aspects of that you can mimic, because I mean the facial animation is really good. The um the no loading screens from orbit to landing is
Well,
incredible.
we'll have to see what happens with Starfield. From what we can see, it looks like there's not much in the way of loading screens or
Yeah.
draw distance. But that's one of those things where you then, I'm assuming they're playing on a GPU that supports uh, PCIe Gen 4 and resizable bar.
I mean, but here's the thing. I'd be okay if there was a small loading screen. Like I don't mind. I don't have this I can't see a loading screen or I'm gonna break my immersion feeling. Cause I'm like I'm sitting in my home in a nice comfortable air conditioned room in front of my computer. I don't feel like I'm actually playing a Nord in Skyrim. It-
No, no, of course not. But
but you always you gotta, the goal is to try to make sure, like, if you're having loading screens, try to have them as few as possible and as
or
short
they
as
could try and
possible.
hide them, like the way that something like, you could hide them with like cloud cover or something as you're going
Oh
in.
yeah, cloud cover or just the deorbit sequence to come in through the atmosphere can be something that they can have play, and then that way, while that's going on, it's actually a loading screen. You don't know it, but yeah. I mean, it looks decent. I hope they're gonna have more from Todd because I definitely want to see more from him. He does, like I said, a good job at talking about his games and his team, and I definitely want him to have that platform because he does he you can tell he has a passion about it.
Oh, for sure. I know that he loves it. Like this is his baby, right? Like this is an IP he's wanted to make forever,
Yeah.
and made me feel a little bit bad talking crap on it in some spots. But passion of love or not, I can
Well,
see why they
yeah.
delayed it. I can see why they delayed it from just what they showed us,
Well, yeah.
and I kind of
Definitely.
agree with it because whether or not those problems get fixed, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things I like. I definitely am enjoying what I'm seeing so far. I really like what I'm seeing so far as the ship customization. That looks really cool.
Is
Not
Starfield gonna
unheard
be
of,
like
but it
Fallout and be like one of those stay in school, don't do drugs kind of games? Is drug trading gonna be a thing? Like I'm gonna like kill space pirates and they're gonna have some sort of drugs that I can just sell.
probably.
So there's no point in taking drugs with Fallout when you made so many caps off of selling drugs. Okay, let's wrap this up though. Anything to say before we head off for the night, morning?
I'd say, I mean, it honestly, it's one of those things where it looks like Microsoft did a decent job. I mean, there were at least a couple things that we did not expect to see from the Microsoft showcase.
There's stuff that I
Um,
expected to see that wasn't there either.
yeah,
So, um, it did subvert expectations. Whether that's a good or bad thing, I'm not sure on.
yeah. I mean, it's one of those things like I didn't expect to see an announcement for Overwatch. I did not
No.
expect to see the Persona announcement. Um, I didn't expect to see Riot Games go
Yeah,
in and
Riot
go
Games.
all our stuff here.
Well, I mean, Wulong Fan Fallen Fallen Dynasty was another game that's like no one. I didn't see a leak for it anywhere, like nothing. So I don't know if they've been super tight-lipped about it. They got it. They just kept
I
it. I know there were some leaks before because people were talking about Persona before, but everyone thought they were trolling because people have been doing it for the past like 2 years.
mhm.
It's coming, so maybe it was in talks. It wasn't ready for last year, and they wanted to wait till closer it was ready. But
I also didn't expect to see something from Hideo Kojima. That
there was
is,
talks that there was a deal happening between them, but I thought it was just hearsay and stuff.
yeah. I mean, that definitely not. It's unlikely partners type situation. Like if I saw him at Sony State of Play, I'd be like, oh yeah, Hideo Kojima's working on a new thing. No second thoughts about that whatsoever. Hideo Kojima at Microsoft's Xbox showcase. Wait,
It's
what?
not like he's never put games. It's not like they've never put Kojima production games on or Kojima's games on Xbox ever. Like Metal Gear
That
Solid, a
that's
lot of the
true.
like in the 360 gen, like I don't think any of his games skipped until he left. Um, yeah, until Kojima left Konami.
Hmm.
Because the thing is, Death Stranding was paid for by Sony, so
Yeah.
uh, and and yes, I get it, and it's it's a thing, but I kind of feel like it's good to see that they're like, yeah, we're investing in Japan, and Kojima still holds a lot of weight in the gaming community, even though I'm pretty sure he wants to make just a movie. So I'm not sure. I swear the
I
guy
mean,
just wants to make a movie. I'd watch it.
totally. I mean, the thing is like he definitely Xbox wants to get more inroads into the Asian market in Japan as well. Um, they definitely want to compete with PlayStation on even footing, and in order to do that, they've got to start developing intellectual property that is desired in Japan. Um, there's a lot of stuff that Sony definitely has home court advantage on when it comes to intellectual
Had
property.
had
And
Horko
so
advantage. They kind of burned a lot of it because
they've been burning.
they closed one of their big studios. They have team uh they have a Sogi studio, but they closed PlayStation studio, Japan studio, which was one of their longest running, been open forever,
Well,
and they closed that. So Microsoft's definitely playing catch up in Japan for sure, and they have been since the Xbox's inception. And the Xbox One not launching in Japan at the same time as the PlayStation 4 definitely hurt them that gen, since it was really rare in a sales chart to see more than like 100 Xboxes go in a week.
yeah. Well, the big thing is like Sony has been for the past 10 years has been acting like they won the console wars. And while when, 10 years ago when they started down this path, they definitely were at the top. It's a situation like you remember back when PlayStation 1 was coming around, Sony was like all kinds of helpful to developers. Be like, "Hey, would you make a game for our
They
system?
were,
We'll
but
help
they
you."
were also really shitty to their competitors.
Oh yeah.
They basically pushed Sega out of the market, which really sucks. Uh, because the Saturn got announced at the same E3 as the PlayStation, and the PlayStation, I think they sold like 200, which is like half the price of the Saturn,
Hmm.
and that's not good. So the Saturn had kind of a short shelf life. It didn't set any worlds on fire, which sucks because Sega made cool stuff and had cool things, and the Dreamcast got it died because of, well, mostly died because of piracy, but also a few other things, and Sony kind of buying up exclusivity to kind of push Sega out of the market. Sega was in a bad state when they went into Dreamcast,
Yeah.
but so Sony's no stranger to the strong arm approach, but they can't strong arm Microsoft.
Oh God, no.
They tried. They really did try. And then Satya Nadella's like, now Xbox has the full backing of Microsoft. Oh, the coffers are open. $7 billion for Bethesda? No problem. Oh, you need $70 billion for Activision Blizzard? Chump change. Let's go.
Yeah. They
Like,
kind of went, "Oh, you've made me sad. Let me wipe these tears with these $100 bills."
it's like literally the screw the rules, I have money meme. Like, it's literally that.
Well,
I
that's
just,
the thing. Like if you imagine like if Sega had the following that PlayStation it's from having that pull. It's not just
yeah,
the money. It's the fact that you know if you wanted to play certain games, especially back then, you
yeah,
had to play it on you know Sony system.
yeah.
And
The PlayStation got so many games. Like, honestly, back then, like, PlayStation had the library, and they even bullied Nintendo out of the spec war, I guess you could say,
yes, Nintendo
because
went
the GameCube was far less powerful than the other console. Like, the it was less powerful than the PlayStation. It was a little better than, I think it was just a bit better than the Dreamcast, but like the original Xbox, which had an off-the-shelf Pentium 3 in it. Like literally, screw the rules. I've got an okay, kids.
Yep.
It's
Well, I
basically a
mean,
gaming PC for whatever. Like, honestly, the original Xbox is so fascinating for it, and you got to give Microsoft
yeah.
props for disrupting the market as much as they did, even though they didn't like set the world on fire with entering then. They really did, and still are giving Sony a run for their money, which have been basically the market leader for a very long time. Like the 360
Yeah.
outsold the PlayStation 3 at the start because Sony was late to market.
Well, like,
And
see, that's the thing. That's what makes, people who are like the ponies, who are like, oh, Sony or bust, and they could do no wrong. A negative influence in the community is because you, like, if Microsoft suddenly beat Sony out of the console market, we would be worse off for it. Not because I'm going to go buy a PlayStation, but because then once Microsoft, or for that matter, any company gets to feel like I don't have to compete with anybody,
then everybody
innovation,
loses.
at the minimum, innovation dies.
And this is the thing, right? Like it sounds like, because we have companies like Amazon wanting to get into gaming in the cloud space, and now there's rumors that Apple wants to get in to the gaming space. Like they see the blood in the water, they see the money and the thing, and Microsoft is longtime nemesis with Apple,
Well, see, that's
and
the thing. That's why I want PlayStation and Sony to kind of learn their lessons and step up,
I'd be
because
like, you need Xbox.
if Sony and Xbox are in a race to the top, then we won't see Amazon, whatever BS they come up with. We
Well, they've
won't
got
see
Luna
whatever
right now.
BS that Apple comes up with, because the fact of the matter is Apple works great. The software works great on their hardware because it's designed specifically for their hardware. Games need raw power. Apple does not have raw power.
Well, they showed Resident Evil Village running on their Apple Silicon, and I can tell you
Hmm.
right now, it looked, to me, the feed that they showed looked worse than, I'd say, like a PS4 Pro or an Xbox One X running the game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's
And
it's going
like,
to be one of those things, like you're going to take a big company like Apple and you're going to tell them, no, you need to increase the power. Apple's going to go, no, I'm not going to increase the power. You need to change your specs to meet stuff,
yeah,
because that's what Apple has always done.
yeah.
And so that's always a negative thing, because what the game industry did is they went and said, all right, we're going to push we're redlining your hardware. And so the hardware industry went, okay, we're going to beef up our hardware. And they go, great, that's awesome. Now we're redlining that. And then, it's always a exchange. And so when you have that even exchange where it's like, like Nvidia does not have currently,
Well, they
uh,
they they do,
they
but
tr-
they don't.
they
AMD's
tried, but
trying. AMD's
they
trying, but Intel's coming in to probably really disrupt that market.
Nvidia tried, but Google pushed them out. And Google went full on robber baron, pushed them out.
Yeah,
Like they would have, Google would have made Sony proud.
yeah. It's
They really.
That's the thing, though, right? Like, what are they gonna do? The gaming market's gonna become. I don't know if Google's gonna want to release a console. Like Stadia was such a fucking mess at
Well,
this
the thing
point,
is,
and
they
like
it is.
xCloud's actually useful. It works. Like you want to try a game without having to download it, you can xCloud it on Game Pass, and
Mhm.
it's pretty good. It's I wouldn't say it's the best, but it is pretty good.
I mean,
And
there's aspects of it that are better. I mean, it's you
well,
want the industry constantly in motion, and if they're not in motion, it's worse. We're worse for it.
yeah,
Um, and and the at the end of the day, you also want to make sure everyone's on the up and up. And that's why it's important to look at, you know, okay, when they use that terminology that sounds fancy, but they just made it up out of whole cloth, like NASA punk. You
yeah,
kind of go, really, really, is that what you're about to say? NASA
like
punk, that's it.
it's it's crazy, and I honestly want to see a world where these people are competing, and I know for a fact that Microsoft does not want to just kill Sony. They're not trying to
No,
just
no.
kill the PlayStation. They want them in the industry. That's why when they bought out, like they're buying up, like even Mojang. They bought up Mojang, but they have used their position to make Sony make decisions they do decisions that they don't want to do. Uh, for instance, easiest one is when I think it was the Better Together update for Minecraft was coming out.
Hmm.
Sony was tried to pull their BS of you can't have crossplay unless you follow these steps, and Microsoft went, "You want this update? You want it? You enable crossplay. Until you do it, you ain't getting it." And you can
Hmm.
explain to your customers why you don't get it. And then it's like, ask Sony. And you know what happened? Crossplay magically got enabled.
Oh yeah,
I,
and there needs to be more of that because there's little to no reason why the
crossplay?
decision for crossplay should be in the hands of the consoles.
No. There's literally no reason.
It,
It's
it,
like, well,
it
we
should
have to
be
give
up
up
to
our
the
dread. And,
developer of the game. Period.
yep.
Because there's no technical reason for it. There's like it's not even a matter of it you require to develop for different architecture. No, you don't. You your game references certain things on the server. Whatever server that is, it doesn't matter. You could keep the same reference points in a programming code for Microsoft's version as well as Sony's version. It there's no technical nor hardware reason for there to be no crossplay. Now, you could argue about, in first person shooters, accuracy and all that stuff, one way or the other. And that's why I go, it should be up to the developer of the game.
Yeah. And they can give the decision to the player if they want.
Yeah.
But I don't think that at any point crossplay would hurt a game's performance, like
God, no.
as a platform. Like there's, in fact, I think crossplay is one of the best things you could do for a lot of games. Like Diablo 4 is going to have full crossplay. This is something we wanted to see decades ago. It's like, why do I have to, get a different console? Because my friend had got parents bought him a different console than I got. I can't play with him because not allowed. Because even though we both have the game, like that was the whole 360 PS3 gen. Friend had 360, I PS3, or even a PC. It's just like, no, can't play together because no reason. And it's been like a dream forever. And then I believe it was Microsoft came up with the way to make it work and like document it so it was easy for people to implement. with things. And then you have Sony not wanting to do it because they want to keep their ecosystem closed.
Mm-hmm. And then you look at any time there's like they started letting mods happen for the Bethesda games on console.
Yep.
Who
Xbox.
delays all the time? Who delays all the time, and who's just like, come on through?
Yeah. Microsoft's like, yeah, whatever, man. Let's do it. Because Microsoft's realized it took them a while to realize that we own Windows. We should sell our games on Windows too. But they
Mhm.
did. And I have to give them props. I also have to give them props for having a subscription service, but also letting you purchase the games outright.
Yeah.
Because that's also a tempting thing for them is to be like, yeah, well, like, I mean, you just want to buy the one game because you're like, that's the only one I really want this year. That's totally cool. And I'm glad they're doing it. I'm kind of hopeful that they get rid of Xbox Live Gold at some point and replace it with
Hopefully.
something else.
Yeah.
Games with Gold is kind of they've been okay, but they're not great. And Game Pass Ultimate with PC and cloud, like the cloud tier, is probably good enough for most people.
Hmm.
Um, I could also see them adding play games you own on cloud that aren't on Game Pass. For instance, if you because that's one of the downsides to xCloud is that if the game's not on Game Pass, you can't stream unless you stream it from your own console, which is possible if you have good enough internet. I have seen people do this in countries that are not here because my internet's garbage. You can actually have a disc-based game in your Series X, and you can stream it to your phone outside of your house. The Xbox is set up to be basically a remote play server, like an xCloud server of its own.
And it's just it you want to have Sony and Xbox playing against each other. Um, Nintendo's still there, but they're not quite competing with either of them.
They're not competing with either. They're just doing their own thing. And honestly, Nintendo and Sony kind of do not play nice at all. But Nintendo and Microsoft do play nice. Though hilariously, MLB The Show, which is a PlayStation platform game, I think they released a Switch version this year.
Of which one?
MLB The Show,
Hmm.
Major League Baseball. I know you know what MLB meant, but there might be someone who watches this who doesn't know what MLB is. But
But yeah,
that's PlayStation's thing. So interesting. Okay, is bedtime now. So
yep.
let's get off. So new Twitter handle is Snarky is a Goblin. Mine is still at Torloth. You can hit us up with things. Send show requests possibly.
Things you want to see, things you want to say.
Yeah, want us to talk about? Want us to if you have opinions on things? Twitter's always
Yeah.
open. We'll keep them aside. Uh, Otherwise, we'll see you next time, which will probably be sometime next week, and we'll talk about whatever news or whatever we feel like.
Yep.
Until next time. Nothing.
Have a good one.